Alrighty, folks, it is Psychology Flipped with Mrs. Clemens. Woo! We're flipping. Make sure to always keep calm. Always study psychology. It could save your life one day. Alright, today, guys, what we're going to be talking about is memory. And you're going to know on each slide whether or not you need to write with our little elephant animation. And there's different animations on each slide, so enjoy. And the reason why elephants, you may be asking, well, as you may know, elephants never forget. But they also never forgive, so be careful if you see an elephant with some sort of weird knife thing, because it's just scary. And so we're going to talk about the persistence of learning over time through the storage and retrieval of information. And here's my little hint for you guys. Basically, we're going to be talking about how really kind of common sense things, but with fancy language. So storage is actually the process of putting stuff into your memory, and retrieval is actually pulling it out and remembering it. We'll talk about that more later. But first, what I would like you guys to do, and you don't have to take out a piece of paper to do this, you could just kind of do it in your head. But if I say to you, name the 7 dwarves, all right? So take a second. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 dwarfs, do, 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 do. All right, so anyway, you're naming the 7 dwarves. How hard was that? Is it easier now to name them, now that you have them pictured? I would assume that it's probably easier because you could say, oh, yeah, that dude was Doc, or that guy was grumpy, or that guy was dopey, and it would just kind of help you out a little bit. So was it easy or was it hard? Well, it depends on several things. And again, you're not writing this down yet. Do you even like Disney movies? Is this like the most annoying thing in the entire world? It's against all your principles and you feel horrible that I've even mentioned such a thing to you. When's the last time you saw the movie? Do you have like a little brother, a little sister, a little cousin, and you watch it 25 times a day? Or was the last time you saw it when you were 5 years old? Or are the people around you being annoying and you can't concentrate? Was my lovely singing annoying to you? I hope it was. Or maybe not, I don't know. Maybe I'll be in the play soon. All right, so guys, as we're talking about memory, we've got different ways that we kind of remember. So the first one, the very basic, is recall, that you have to retrieve information from your memory. So if I say to you, what are the 4 important causes of World War I? And I just say that to you. You need to actually pull out of your memory what those 4 causes are. Or if I say to you, what are the different regions of the brain, you'd have to actually pull that out and to remember that. And people have a hard time with this, especially for essays, where you have to actually recall things. People have a lot better time with recognition. So if I give you a multiple choice test and I say, all right, well, who was the father of psychology? And I say, oh, was it Skinner, Pavlov, Freud, or Maslow? And now you're looking at it and you're like, oh, yeah, I remember hearing about Freud. Yeah, it's probably that dude. That's a lot easier to just be able to recognize things. And I imagine, that's why a lot of people have or at least enjoy more, not that anyone really loves taking tests, but they enjoy more recognition because you feel like, I'll probably recognize the right answer. Whereas with recall, you have to come up with the right answer on your own. So we've got a process here. We start with encoding, where we have to actually get the information into our brain. So we're teaching you a formula in math class, you're listening and paying attention to that formula. Storage is now, it's into your memory. It's actually in there, sitting around, hanging out. Then the next thing is retrieval, and that's the remembering, the actual idea of getting that stuff out of your memory so that you know it. So if I'm trying to get you to remember, I don't know, well, math is not my fun thing, but a squared plus b squared equals c squared. First you have to be taught it, then it becomes stored, and then for you to remember it. You really never remember math. It's bad news, bad for you. All right, so we've got a couple more terms here. Memory is the storage of inputs. That's our fancy schmancy definition. We're going to be talking about different lengths of memory. A lot of times people think it's just long and short-term memory, but we have something even shorter. It's sensory storage, where you hold on to information just for a second or so. So like on the first day of class, I might just be saying, your names when I'm doing the roll, and then remember you for a second, and then not remember you after that. The next one is selective attention, where you're able to pick and choose among the different things that are going on. So if you're at a party or something and somebody's telling you a story, and there's music going on, maybe there's somebody fighting, maybe there's somebody crying, maybe there's other people making out. Don't look at them, that's just weird. But anyway, that you're able to kind of actually listen to your friend's story as they're talking to you. And then the last one, and this one's my favorite, feature extraction, where you're, oh my gosh.
Good afternoon. Any girls interested in volleyball, open gyms will be Tuesday from 3:30 to 5 o'clock in the VHS gym. Senior prom packets can be picked up at the kiosk. They must be returned to Mr. Camara or...
You guys caught me. It was during announcements. Sorry if I broke off for a little bit. But anyway, feature extraction. Basically, that's where you're able to know the specifics about stuff. So we're not just paying attention, we're not just kind of knowing the overall thing, but we're actually able to know specifically, like, all right, it wasn't just a car that was in the accident, it was a blue car that had one hubcap that had fallen off and a lightning streak down the side, but it was falling, kind of crumply, and there was tinting, but it was kind of cheap. If I described your car, I'm really sorry that I hit your car the other day in the parking lot. Anyway, so yeah, that you're able to actually give specific information. Oh my goodness, the bell's ringing. All right, so we've got a 3-box model of memory. So this is what we just talked about. So again, we're not writing it. We talked about sensory memory, where it's just there, like just for a couple seconds. For the most part, it's forgotten. Sometimes it's transferred into our short-term memory, which we're going to be talking about. And maybe it'll last there for 30 seconds if we can't rehearse that. And so, like, when we were watching Memento and we're watching Leonard not being able to remember things, like, that's his problem. He isn't able to get it to go past that, and so it becomes forgotten. And then, hopefully, it can go up to long-term memory, which can be permanent. Sometimes it's years and years. Maybe it's permanent for a week, so which is not very permanent. So then we have to retrieve it. All right, so let's talk about short-term memory. So it's memory that stays in your mind as long as you can repeat it. So have you ever had a time where your teacher's giving you a test or something, and you're like, please, just hand it out, because you were cramming before? So yeah, like that's a case where it's in your short-term memory. It's not in your long-term memory. And this is one of my favorite things when kids, they're not paying attention in class and they're talking or something. And I say, stop, come on, pay attention. And they're like, well, I heard what you just said. And they repeat it back. Yeah, dude, you can repeat it back, so it's in your short-term memory, but it's not going to get into your long-term memory. It doesn't mean that you actually understand what's going on. All right, so if you want your information to go from your short-term memory to your long-term memory, you need to rehearse things and repeat it over and over. And this is what happens with sports. This is what happens with anything, any kind of learning. I remember my mom used to have me practice spelling things over and over, for spelling quizzes when I was in elementary school, like 30 or 40 times. And I like this little comic, if you want to pause it and look at that. Chunking is when you're grouping information together. So does anyone know what this is? Anyone? It's the school phone number. Oh my God, yeah, it totally is. So we chunk that because otherwise scientists have found that we can't remember groups of bigger than 5 in a row. So we chunk it into 3, 3, and 4. Same thing like we do with our social security numbers, 3, 2, 4. By the way, this is my social security number. Look it up, use it, get a credit card. It'll be good. All right, we also use mnemonic devices. And that's how you pronounce that, mnemonic. The M is silent. And it's any kind of pattern that you can use. So like in social studies, our big one is using MAIN for World War I, militarism, alliances, imperialism, neutrality. I couldn't help myself. But like learning the colors of the rainbow, Roy G. Biv. For north, south, east, west, never eat soggy waffles. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally for order of operations. Any of those things are mnemonic devices. Oh, Woodrow Wilson. He was the one that was president for World War I. WWWW. Any of those things that you kind of come up with. Now, long-term memory. It can be in there indefinitely. So let's say you know your locker combination this year, but you don't know it next year when you come back. It doesn't mean it wasn't in your long-term memory. It indefinitely is not a set period of time. There are some things you might remember forever and some that you just don't. I still know my license plate that I got when I was 16. I had that license plate in a long time. I don't know, but I don't know my actual current license plate number. So, yeah. So anyway, if you're going to remember things, you need a lot to kind of help you out. You need to kind of reconstruct the different events. You might need to actually have your senses in touch. You might have to have your information in touch to be able to recall the information that's in your long-term memory. And honestly, there's a lot that we just don't know about how long-term memory works. We think that it's actually in different parts of the brain. They used to think there was only one part, it was in the hippocampus. Now they're saying no, some of our speech memory is where our speech is, some of our moving memory is where our in the back of the brain where movement stuff is. All right, retrieving information, that's a fancy way of saying remembering it. So retrieval, finding information when you need it, and recognition, that's what we talked about, where it's something that you've seen before, like that multiple choice. Like, oh, that's grass outside, that green stuff. Oh, that's my dog. Recognition. So you don't need to write this one, but the context definitely matters. Sometimes our brains just kind of, there are some things that stay with us forever. With my parents, you can talk to them about, they remember exactly what was going on when Kennedy was shot. Like, I remember when I was in middle school, this is O.J. Simpson going down the highway. I remember my first year teaching in Beacon, exactly everything that happened that day with 9/11. We're going to be talking about stuff that goes with your mood congruent. So I love that GIF. Whether you're happy or whether you're sad, that certainly impacts. And then the state that you're in, and we're going to talk about that. Where you are, what's going on. So deja vu, we're going to have more of a conversation about this together, but this is the basic definition that you're triggering from some earlier experience. Is that really real? Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Mood congruent is that it's consistent with your mood. So if you're remembering something, if you're sad, you might kind of remember some of your sad memories, like grandma died. State dependent is how you learned it in whatever state. If you're high, drunk, depressed. And they've actually done studies. They've said that it's better for you to take a test where you learn stuff because you get cues from that. All right, so to be able to actually remember and get things in there, we have different types of encoding. We have visual encoding from the actual images, acoustic, from our sound, and somatic from the meaning. That's me in the summer, a bookworm. Oh, and that's it for right now. Tune back in for Memory Part 2. It's going to be so much more excitement than you could ever handle. All right, it's been pleasant. Talk to you later. Bye.